You'd think saying no to an unlicensed teenager borrowing your car would make you the responsible adult. Not the villain in your own house. Not the cold-blooded monster your wife spits at like you handed the keys to a loaded gun. But here we are. My name is Evan. I'm 42, married to a woman named Melissa, 39. She has a son from her previous marriage, Landon, now 17. We've been married for 3 years, together for 5. Landon was 12 when we met. Quiet, polite enough, a little standoffish, but I respected that. I wasn't trying to be his dad. I was just trying to be a stable adult in his life, something I thought he deserved after watching his biological father bail when he was 10. Melissa and I met at work. She was in HR, I was in IT. Our relationship moved faster than I planned, but she was charming, warm, funny in a way that made me let my guard down. We moved in together a year later. I bought us a house and Melissa and Landon moved in. I didn't mind. I was making good money and I liked feeling like I could provide for them. The first time Landon asked to borrow my car, he was 15. No permit. I told him no gently. He pouted, didn't speak to me for a day. Melissa didn't say anything. I thought it was a parenting moment, boundaries and all that. But the pattern kept happening. Landon wanted more and more independence, but with none of the responsibility. He refused to get a job, skipped practice, didn't study for his permit test. He failed it. Twice. Melissa kept saying he was just nervous or had anxiety. I said he needed structure, accountability. She said I was being harsh. Fast forward to 4 months ago. Landon had just turned 17. Still no permit. No license. He asked me if he could borrow my car to practice driving. I told him the same thing I always did. You need to have a permit and I have to be in the car if you want to practice. It's the law. He rolled his eyes. Melissa asked if I could just let it slide once. I refused. I even looked at Landon and said calmly, "It's not about not trusting you. It's about protecting you. And other people. You drive without a license and something happens, you could ruin your life." He stormed upstairs. Melissa gave me the cold shoulder for 3 days. A week later, Landon got into a car accident. Not in my car. Not on our street. He was driving his friend Tyler's car. Tyler, another 17-year-old, had just gotten his license a month before. They were apparently goofing off, decided Landon wanted to try driving a little. They went out on a back road near a lake, and Landon lost control of the wheel. The car spun off the side into a shallow ditch. Tyler broke his arm. Landon hit his head. Minor concussion. But the airbags deployed and the car was totaled. It was stupid. Reckless. Avoidable. I found out when Melissa called me sobbing, saying Landon was in the hospital. She didn't mention the rest until I got there. When I walked into the room and saw Landon lying there with a neck brace and bandage on his forehead, my heart dropped. I wasn't angry. I was relieved he was alive. I asked him what happened and he shrugged. Said, "Just being dumb." Melissa didn't look at me for the rest of the day. That night she exploded. "If you just let him drive your damn car, this never would have happened." I blinked. "Excuse me. You were so controlling. You made it a thing so he went behind your back. You pushed him to this." I was stunned. She was pacing, yelling, full of rage. "You act like you're his dad, but you're not. You just make him feel like crap about everything." I told her flatly that blaming me for her son's poor decision was not only unfair, it was delusional. She threw a wine glass at the wall. That was the start of the unraveling. Over the next few days I found out more details. Landon and Tyler had both lied to their parents. They'd taken Tyler's dad's car without permission. The police were involved. Charges were being discussed: reckless endangerment, unauthorized use of a vehicle. Because Landon was the one driving, he was in the hot seat. Melissa begged Tyler's parents not to press charges. She cried. She promised them Landon was a good kid. I stayed out of it. I thought she needed to see the consequences play out. But then twist number 1, I got a call from Tyler's dad. He was furious. "Why are you trying to pressure my son not to talk to the cops?" I said, "What? I haven't spoken to your son." He replied, "Your wife said you agreed it was all Tyler's fault. That Tyler let Landon drive." That's when I realized Melissa was dragging my name into lies. She was trying to shift the blame from her son onto a kid who made one bad judgment call because she couldn't handle the idea of Landon being at fault. I confronted her. She denied it, then said she was just trying to protect Landon. That night I made a decision. I drove to the police station and gave them a written statement. Everything I knew. That Landon did not have a license. That he had been told explicitly not to drive. That I had never consented to him using my care or anyone else's. That Melissa had attempted to interfere with the process. Melissa was livid when she found out. You betrayed your own family. I told her I wouldn't be part of a cover-up. I wouldn't teach Landon that he could ruin someone's property, someone's safety, and walk away with a slap on the wrist. I also said if she ever misused my name again, I'd contact a lawyer. We didn't speak for a week. Then she packed a bag and left. Took Landon with her. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. But that was just Act 1. 2 weeks later I received a notice. I was being subpoenaed. Tyler's parents had filed a civil claim against Melissa and me, because she told them I'd given permission. I was being dragged into a lawsuit because my own wife told lies that implicated me in a teenage joyride crash. I lawyered up, and I turned over every text, every voicemail, every message where I said no. Where I warned Melissa. Where I made it clear I wouldn't be part of it. That's when twist number 2 came in. Landon's real father showed up. Out of nowhere. Apparently Melissa called him crying. Said she couldn't handle the legal mess. He hadn't seen Landon in 5 years. Now he was offering to help. His idea of help was trying to convince me to drop the statement and tell police it was all a misunderstanding. That Tyler pressured Landon. That boys will be boys. I told him he could shove that right back where he found it. And now? Now I'm being painted as the villain. By Melissa. By Landon. Even some mutual friends. They're just kids. You're ruining his future. He was scared. You pushed him. But I know the truth. And I'm not backing down. Even if it costs me my marriage. Even if it costs me people I thought were my friends. Because I'd rather lose that than lose myself. They say marriage is about compromise, but what happens when one person keeps shifting the goalposts and expects the other to pretend the game is still fair? After Melissa left with Landon, the house felt empty, but not in the way you'd think. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry. It was this dull, hollow silence that creeps in when something unnatural gets ripped out, and you suddenly realize peace is what's been missing for a very long time. Still, I didn't expect her to go nuclear. A few days after I got the subpoena, I started getting texts from people I hadn't heard from in months. Melissa had been telling anyone who'd listen that I'd betrayed her son, that I cooperated with the cops just to spite her, that I was obsessed with punishment. I even got an email from her sister who I used to be close to saying, I can't believe you destroy a teenage boy's life like this. What happened to you? I almost laughed. What happened to me? Let me tell you what happened. I got tired of being the only adult in a house where the rules changed based on feelings. I got tired of being told to let things go, when those things could land someone in jail or the hospital. I got tired of raising red flags just to have them ignored until everything finally exploded, and then somehow I became the match. I stayed quiet. I didn't defend myself publicly. I didn't fight back on social media or call up friends. I just let the legal process run its course. Because when you're standing in truth, it feels pointless to wrestle with people who'd rather roll around in lies. But that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. The worst part? Landon himself started messaging me. Not to apologize. Not to explain. To blame. You're a coward. You always hated me. You could have fixed this. You just want me in jail. Every message felt like a sucker punch. But one in particular knocked the wind out of me. I hope you die alone like you deserve. I don't care how angry or immature a teenager is. That line. That one clung to my ribs like a bruise. But the case wasn't going away. Tyler's family wasn't bluffing. Their insurance wouldn't cover the damage since the car was taken without consent. And medical bills were piling up. Landon was the one behind the wheel. They wanted accountability and so did the police. My lawyer was sharp. She told me I had enough documentation to remove myself from civil liability, but I might be asked to testify. That meant giving sworn statements against Melissa. Against Landon. I didn't flinch. I told her I'd say whatever needed to be said. I didn't press charges out of revenge. I did it because someone had to draw the line. And as much as I wished Melissa had done it sooner, I knew I couldn't force her to grow a spine. Then came the final twist. 3 weeks before the court hearing, Melissa showed up at my house. Unannounced. I hadn't seen her face to face since the night she threw the wine glass. She looked tired. Smaller. Not physically but emotionally, like the fire had finally burned her out. "Evan," she said quietly, "can we talk?" I didn't say a word. Just stepped aside and let her in. She walked slowly, glancing around the living room like it wasn't the same place she'd called home for 3 years. I offered her water. She said no. Then she sat down on the couch and did something I hadn't seen her do in years. She cried. Not the performative kind. Not the manipulative kind. But real painful bone-deep crying. "I messed up," she said, voice shaking. "I know I did." I stayed silent. I thought I was protecting him. But I made it worse. I see that now. Still, I didn't speak. Not because I was punishing her, but because I needed her to say it all without rescue. She wiped her eyes and finally looked at me. "I came to ask you not to testify." There it was. She saw my jaw tense and held up her hand. "Please hear me out. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm not even asking you to take the blame. Just, if you don't show up, the case will stall. Maybe they'll drop it. Maybe Landon can do community service. Something lighter." I stared at her, stunned. "You came here crying, admitting what you did, and still you're asking me to protect him from consequences?" "I'm asking you to protect me," she whispered. That landed hard. "What do you mean?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If you testify, they'll see I lied, that I tried to interfere. I could lose my job, Evan." I stood there, numb. All of this, every deflection, every manipulation, every attack, it all led back to the same thing. Melissa protecting her image at any cost. I let out a long breath. "Do you even care about what Landon did to Tyler?" Her eyes flickered. "I do. I can't lose everything." I nodded slowly, walked to the door, opened it. She looked up at me wide-eyed. That's it, I said. She stood up, trembling. "You're really going to do this?" "I already did," I said softly. "Now the system will do the rest." She left without another word. A week later I testified. Calm, honest, straightforward. I told them what I told you. That I never gave permission. That I warned Landon. That Melissa tried to deflect and distort the truth. That I wanted Landon to grow up, not be coddled into self-destruction. The judge ruled that Landon would face juvenile charges, reckless endangerment, and unauthorized vehicle use. Tyler's family settled in civil court after that. Melissa was fined for defamation and obstruction. She didn't lose her job, but she was demoted. Landon was ordered into a rehab-style teen accountability program, plus restitution payments to Tyler's family. And me? I filed for divorce the next day. It's been 4 months now. I haven't spoken to Melissa since. Landon hasn't reached out. And the silence that once felt like a void now feels like freedom. People still judge me. Some of Melissa's friends still whisper that I ruined a kid's future. But those who truly know me, they've started coming around. Quietly. Respectfully. Some even apologized. The truth is, doing the right thing isn't glamorous. It doesn't earn you applause. Sometimes it costs you love. Sometimes it isolates you. But in the end it leaves you whole. I never wanted to be a father. But I tried to be a good man. And if that's not enough for some people, that's their problem to solve. The morning after I filed for divorce, I sat at the kitchen table with my hands around a coffee mug I didn't remember pouring. The house was still. The kind of stillness that comes not from peace but from absence. No Landon stomping down the stairs in the afternoon. Headphones blasting some kind of bass-heavy teenage chaos. No Melissa humming to herself while unloading groceries or throwing off her heels in a rush to change into loungewear. Just the refrigerator hum and my own heartbeat. I didn't cry. I thought maybe I would. That maybe signing the papers would rip something loose inside me. But I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel triumphant either. Just clear. And clarity, it turns out, is one hell of a drug. I focused on work, Hit the gym more. Finally fixed the busted porch light I'd been ignoring for 2 years. For the first time in ages, the home actually felt like mine. No walking on eggshells. No tension crackling under every dinner conversation. No whispered arguments behind a teenager's closed bedroom door. But life, of course, doesn't stay neatly compartmentalized. One Friday night in late March, I got a knock on the door around 8:45 p.m. I assumed it was a neighbor until I opened it and saw Dylan, Landon's biological father, standing there, shifting from foot to foot like he was wired on caffeine or guilt. "Hey man," he said. I blinked. "What are you doing here?" He shoved his hands in his hoodie pocket. "Melissa gave me your address. Said we should talk. She also gave you the idea to manipulate the police report. So forgive me if I'm not rolling out the red carpet." He raised his hands, a mock surrender. "Fair. But I'm not here to fight." I sidestepped outside and closed the door behind me. He looked thinner than I remembered. Scruffier. A man trying to rebuild a relationship with a son he abandoned and fumbling badly. "I just wanted to say," he began, voice lower now, "you were right." I tilted my head. I came back thinking I could fix it, you know? Be the hero. Say a few things, calm everyone down. But I wasn't here for the years in between. I didn't see how Melissa coddled him. I didn't see how much you actually tried. I folded my arms. And I told Landon. I told him he owed you an apology. I blinked. He listened. He gave a slow shrug. Half listened. But he's going through it now. He hates the teen program, thinks it's stupid. But his therapist made him write out what happened from everyone's point of view. Yours included. That gave me pause. "Good," I said simply. "I just wanted you to know. I think you did the right thing. Even if it wrecked everything." "It didn't wreck anything," I replied. "It revealed it." We stood in silence for a few moments. Dylan finally said goodbye, awkwardly offered a handshake and left. That conversation lingered in my mind longer than I expected. Not because I wanted anything from Dylan, but because it made something else clear. The domino effect of my decision was still rippling outward. And not everything it touched would break. Some things maybe just might rebuild stronger. About 2 weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single piece of lined notebook paper. The handwriting was messy but unmistakable. "Evan, I'm still mad. I still think you could have done something different. But my therapist says holding on to hate is like drinking poison and waiting for you to die. So I'm trying. This is me trying. Landon." No apology. No ownership. But for a 17-year-old? It was something. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I wanted the silence to mean something this time. I didn't want to go back to the old pattern of instant forgiveness, instant comfort. Growth takes friction. And I wasn't going to rob him of that. I kept the letter. Tucked it into the drawer of my desk. Maybe one day I'd respond. Maybe one day he'd write again. 3 months passed. The divorce was finalized. Melissa never reached out directly again. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that she'd moved in with her sister temporarily, and that she was looking for a new job. Tyler's family and I stayed loosely in touch. His mom sent me a card after the civil suit closed, thanking me for standing up for their son and being a rare kind of man who doesn't fold under pressure. I kept that card too. Funny how the truth, even when it burns, still manages to earn respect. Then came Mother's Day. I wasn't planning to think about it, would I? But that morning I got another envelope. This time it did have a return address. Melissa. Inside was a typed letter. "Evan, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. I wouldn't blame you for throwing this away without reading it. But if you're still reading, thank you. I've been doing therapy. Real therapy. Not just the kind where you go to complain about other people. The kind where you have to sit with your own choices and ask hard questions. I've learned that I was parenting from fear. Fear of losing Landon. Fear of failing him the way Dylan did. And that fear made me blind. You weren't the villain. You were the only adult in the room. And I hated you for it. Not because you were wrong, but because I couldn't face how right you were. You told Landon no when I couldn't. You said what needed to be said when I wouldn't. And you took the hit for both of us when everything exploded. You didn't ruin our family. You were the only thing holding it together. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. But I wanted to say thank you. For loving a boy who wasn't yours. For trying harder than his own parents ever did. For choosing truth over comfort. I hope you're finding peace now. I hope one day Landon understands what you did for him. With remorse. Melissa. I reread that letter 3 times. Then once more with my coffee. And again later that night. It didn't erase the past. It didn't change the betrayal or the loneliness I'd felt. But it did offer something unexpected. Validation. In the end, I didn't need people to agree with me. I didn't need public apologies or dramatic reconciliations. I just needed to know that my refusal to compromise on values wasn't in vain. That standing up for accountability when everyone around me chose denial wasn't just a shout into the void. That maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing mattered. Even if no one clapped. Even if I stood alone. Even if the only reward was a quiet house, a quiet mind, and a clean conscience. And I'll take that over chaos any day. Summer came quietly. The last few seasons of my life had been full of chaos, shattered glass, courthouse appointments, silence stretched across dinner tables like barbed wire. But this summer felt like exhale. The kind where mornings start slow, birds chirp through open windows, and the coffee actually gets finished before it goes cold. I took a solo trip upstate for a week in June, rented a cabin on a lake. No Wi-Fi, no news, just trees and sky and the creaking sound of a canoe on still water. I hiked. I wrote. I thought about the life I'd had before Melissa and the life I'd almost had with her. And then let all of it float away like mist off the water. Coming home felt different this time. The house wasn't a reminder of what I'd lost, it was a reflection of what I'd reclaimed. I started volunteering at a youth mentorship program. Nothing dramatic, just a few hours on weekends, helping kids with homework, teaching them coding basics. One Saturday, one of the boys, Avery, age 15, all limbs and sarcasm, asked, "You got any kids?" I smiled. "Not anymore." He blinked, confused. "What does that mean?" I thought about how to answer. About Landon. About all the things I gave and all the ways I was pushed out. "It means I tried my best for someone who wasn't ready to hear it," I finally said. "But I don't regret trying." He nodded. "That's kinda deep." I chuckled. "You'll get it when you're older." Over the next few weeks, something subtle shifted. The pain I used to carry like a badge, how Melissa betrayed me, how Landon turned against me, stopped being sharp. It became weightless. Like a scar that no longer hurts to touch. Then, in mid-August, something happened that caught me off guard. I was driving home from the grocery store when I stopped at a red light and saw Landon. He was crossing the street with a backpack slung over one shoulder. His hair longer now, posture less slouched. He looked older. Like he'd shed that arrogant weight teenage boys sometimes carry like armor. Our eyes locked for a split second. He stopped mid-step. I didn't wave. Didn't gesture. Just looked at him. He raised a hand, hesitant, almost unsure. The light turned green. I drove on. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel nostalgic. I just felt present. And that presence stayed with me into the fall, when I received one final letter. This one was handwritten again. And this time it was an apology. "Evan, I don't know if you'll ever want to hear from me again. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But after everything I've been through, this summer, therapy, community service, the accountability program, I realize now how much I blamed you because I didn't know how to face myself. You were always there. Saying no when it mattered. Setting boundaries. Trying to make me grow up. And I hated you for it. But I see now you weren't trying to hurt me. You were trying to help me become someone I could actually live with." Mom was scared. I see that now too. She loves hard, but sometimes that love gets twisted. And I let her fear become mine. When you pressed charges, I thought you were out to destroy me. But now I get it. You were drawing a line. You were saying, "This far, no further." You saved me. Not from the crash. From myself. I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough. But I wanted to say it anyway. Thank you for trying. Thank you for being stronger than I was. Landon. I sat with that letter for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't rush to write back. I just let it sit beside me like a quiet guest who finally said what needed to be said. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped needing apologies. I stopped needing anything from Landon or Melissa. But that letter wasn't about me needing it. It was about him finally growing into someone who could give it. And that maybe was enough. I didn't go to Melissa's new address. I didn't try to fix anything. I didn't even respond. I didn't need to. My story wasn't about revenge. It was about choosing the hard thing when everyone else took the easy way out. It was about standing up for truth even if you stand alone. It was about refusing to be the shield for someone else's avoidance. There's a lie we tell people who marry into families with kids from previous relationships. That love is all you need. That good intentions are enough. That patience will fix dysfunction. But the truth is, love without boundaries is just enabling. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for a child, for a partner, for yourself is say no. Even if it costs you everything. Even if they hate you for it. Even if they leave. Because peace doesn't come from pleasing people. Peace comes from protecting your integrity no matter the cost. And mine? Mine is intact. It took a crash, a courtroom, and a whole lot of heartbreak, but I walked through the fire and came out clean. And in the silence that followed, I found myself again. And this time I'm not giving him up for anyone.